The woods behind the old Miller house had always been a place of whispered warnings. Parents told their children not to wander too far, and even the bravest souls hesitated once the sun dipped below the trees. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and pine, and the silence was broken only by the occasional rustle of unseen creatures. It was here, on a chilly autumn afternoon, that little Emily vanished without a trace. Her parents, Sarah and David, had been setting up a picnic near the edge of the forest while Emily played nearby, her laughter ringing through the trees like wind chimes. But when Sarah turned to call her for lunch, the girl was gone. At first, they thought she had simply wandered off, as children often do. They called her name, their voices growing more frantic with each passing minute. The woods seemed to swallow their cries, leaving only an eerie stillness in return. Hours passed, and the sun began to sink, casting long, twisted shadows across the forest floor. Sarah's hands trembled as she dialed the police, her voice breaking as she described her daughter's bright red jacket and the small silver locket she always wore. David paced the edge of the trees, his flashlight cutting through the growing darkness, praying for even the faintest glimpse of Emily. The search lasted well into the night. Neighbors joined, their flashlights bobbing like fireflies as they combed through the underbrush. The police brought dogs, but the animals only circled in confusion, as if Emily's scent had simply vanished. By morning, exhaustion weighed heavy on Sarah and David, their hope fading with the dawn. It was then, as the first light touched the trees, that Sarah spotted something nestled among the roots of an ancient oak. A doll, its porcelain face cracked and yellowed, its once fine dress reduced to tattered rags. Something about it made her skin crawl. She reached for it despite the dread coiling in her stomach. The moment her fingers brushed its matted hair, a jolt ran through her, as if the doll itself had shocked her. David frowned as she gasped, but before he could speak, Sarah's eyes widened in horror. The doll's arm, brittle and stained, twitched. Then with a sound like dry leaves crunching, its head turned. The painted lips parted, and a voice, small and broken, whispered, "Mama?" Sarah screamed, dropping the doll as if it had burned her. It hit the ground with a sickening thud, its glassy eyes staring up at her. David rushed to her side, his face pale. "What the hell was that?" he breathed. But before Sarah could answer, the doll's fingers curled, its joints creaking like old floorboards. The voice came again, weaker this time. "Papa, help me." The sound of their daughter's voice, so faint and distorted, sent a wave of nausea through Sarah. She fell to her knees, her hands shaking as she reached for the doll again. This time she forced herself to look closer. The cracked porcelain wasn't just aged, it was familiar. The shape of the nose, the curve of the lips. It was Emily's face, frozen in that lifeless shell. A sob tore from Sarah's throat as she clutched the doll to her chest, her mind refusing to accept what her heart already knew. David's hands were trembling as he called the police again, his voice barely coherent. The officers arrived quickly, their expressions shifting from concern to disbelief as Sarah babbled about the doll being alive. One of them, a seasoned detective named Harris, knelt beside her, his brow furrowed. "Ma'am, let me see it," he said gently. Reluctantly, Sarah handed it over. Harris examined the doll carefully, his frown deepening. The moment he turned it over, a gasp escaped him. There, on the back of its neck, was a small silver locket, the same one Emily had been wearing when she disappeared. His hands shook as he pried it open. Inside was a tiny photo of Sarah, David, and Emily smiling together on her last birthday. The detective's face drained of color. This isn't possible," he muttered. The doll's fingers twitched again, and Harris nearly dropped it. The voice came once more, pleading. "Please help me." The officers exchanged terrified glances. None of them had an explanation, but none of them could deny what they were hearing. Sarah snatched the doll back, cradling it like a child. "We have to do something," she cried. "She's alive in there." David, though shaken, forced himself to think. "There's an old woman who lives deep in these woods," he said suddenly. "People say she knows things, unnatural things." The police hesitated, but with no other leads, they agreed to follow. The group trekked deeper into the forest, the trees growing denser, the air colder. The doll in Sarah's arms remained still now, as if conserving its strength. After what felt like hours, they reached a small, ramshackle cottage, its roof sagging and its windows dark. The scent of herbs and something sour hung in the air. David knocked, his heart pounding. For a long moment there was silence. Then, the door creaked open, revealing a hunched figure with milky eyes and skin like parchment. The old woman studied them before her gaze landed on the doll. A slow, knowing smile curled her lips. "Ah," she rasped. "You found her." Sarah's breath hitched. "You know what happened?" The woman nodded, stepping aside to let them in. The interior of the cottage was cluttered with jars of strange liquids, dried plants, and countless dolls, some whole, some in pieces. The old woman motioned for Sarah to place Emily on the table. "A spirit took her," she explained. "Trapped, her in this form to feed on her fear." David's fists clenched. "Can you change her back?" The woman's smile faded. "It will not be easy. The spirit will fight to keep her." Sarah didn't care. "Do it, whatever it takes." The old woman nodded and began chanting in a language none of them recognized. The air grew heavy, the candles flickering wildly. The doll trembled, its cracks glowing with an eerie light. A wail pierced the air, not from the doll but from somewhere unseen, a sound of rage and hunger. The walls of the cottage shook, and the jars rattled on their shelves. The old woman's voice rose above the chaos, her words sharp as knives. The doll's porcelain began to splinter, the cracks spreading like spider webs. Sarah cried out, fearing it would shatter completely. But then, in a burst of light, the doll melted away, revealing Emily's small, trembling form. The girl collapsed into Sarah's arms, gasping for breath. Her skin was cold, her clothes torn, but she was alive. David sobbed as he wrapped his arms around them both. The old woman sagged, exhausted. "The spirit is banished, for now," she warned. "But these woods are old and hungry. Never let her wander here again." Sarah could only nod, clutching Emily tighter. As they left the cottage, the first rays of sunlight broke through the trees, as if the forest itself had released its hold. Emily, though weak, whispered, "I was so scared, Mama." Sarah kissed her forehead, tears streaming down her face. "It's over now, sweetheart. We're taking you home." The police escorted them back, their faces grim but relieved. "Detective." Harris lingered, glancing once more into the depths of the woods. He had seen many strange things in his career, but nothing like this. As the family drove away, he made a silent vow to never set foot in those woods again. Back home, Emily slept fitfully, her small fingers clutching Sarah's hand even in dreams. David watched them from the doorway, his heart heavy. They had their daughter back, but the memory of that doll, its cracked face, its pleading voice, would haunt him forever. That night, as he checked the locks on the doors, he caught a glimpse of something outside the window. A figure, pale and indistinct, standing at the edge of the trees. Watching. He blinked, and it was gone. Shaking his head, he told himself it was just exhaustion. But as he returned to his family, he couldn't shake the feeling that the woods weren't done with them yet. Somewhere in the darkness, something was waiting. And next time, It might not let Emily go.